this season by number one on the list, Clemson. You've heard me talk about it kind of all season, or all off season. Clemson is just really, really good. I think they're going to have an outstanding year. They finished with 10 years last year, snuck into the playoff. They beat SMU in that championship game, gave Texas everything they could handle. Dabo seems to have that this confidence back. They bring back 16 starters from last year's group. Klubnik is back, third season as a starter, third season with his offensive coordinator, Garrett Riley. 4 returning starters on the offensive line. They're going to be seniors. I think the real question is running back. Gideon Davidson is a guy that's a top 5 running back. He will be a true freshman. I think he could have an impact for them. Defense, loaded. Going to be one of the best defenses in the entire country. New defensive coordinator, Tom Allen. He's in at DC after coming from Penn State. They've got TJ Parker. They've got Peter Woods. They've got Avion Terrell at corner. Sammy Brown. This team is going to be loaded, and it's not a very difficult schedule. You could make a strong argument that their 2 most difficult games are non-conference games. They're going to have LSU in the opener, and they're going to have South Carolina. I think both of those games are tougher than any game they have on the rest of their schedule. In the ACC, they don't play Miami. They get SMU at home. They have a road game at Georgia Tech and Louisville. So I think their toughest games are the one on your screen right now. LSU, that's at home. Georgia Tech, that's on the road. SMU at home, at Louisville, and then at South Carolina. This is a team that for sure will be in the playoff, and I think could make a deep run. I'll be pretty surprised if this is not a team in the national semifinals. And you know what? I'm toying around with, in my bracket, putting them as a team playing for the national championship. We'll just see who they play. So my number one buy team for 2025, Clemson. I think Clemson's going to be incredible. And again, trending upward from last season. All right, let's go on the opposite side of that coin. What's my number one sell team? Remember, this is for 1 year based on where they have been. And if you look at this team winning 10 games a year ago, averaging over 10 wins in the last 3 seasons, Tennessee is a team that I could see take a step back. I know that listen, I get it. Tennessee is great. Well, Tennessee is right now a sell team. They've got the quarterback situation, which I don't love. Losing a quarterback that late in the spring is not great. So you can make the argument well, we didn't like Nico anyways. Fine. You know what? Fine. That's your prerogative. But the timing of that was not great because the way that they had to fill that in the transfer portal is in Joey Aguilar. So Aguilar comes in the spring portal, which means he hasn't had a lot of time with Josh Heupel in that system. He came from App State, but then spent a short time at UCLA. So UCLA and Tennessee kind of just trade quarterbacks. And this is a quarterback-centric system that puts a lot of pressure on the quarterback to make post-snap downfield reads on wide receiver choice routes. That's what the offense is. So that player is vital. Aguilar, by the way, led the country in interceptions last year with 14 when he was at App State. I think that's a problem. They also have to replace the SEC Player of the Year, Dylan Sampson, four starters off the offensive line, and the wide receiver group is young. So again, step back. I think the defense should be fine. Their best corner, Jermod McCoy, is coming off that ACL injury that was suffered in January. I think that they should be okay. The schedule is reasonable based on SEC standards. I think they're probably going to be like a 5-1 team going into Alabama in October. That would be projecting a September loss against Georgia. I think we're all okay with that. But then they would have road games against Bama, Florida, home game against Oklahoma. Not an easy schedule. It's a conference that's not going to give you any weeks off, as they love to tell us. But this is an easy team to sell for this year. Again, based on where they've been and where they might be this year. Not a long-term thing. I do believe in Tennessee long-term. I just think that this season could be a difficult one, so they're going to be a sell for me. Next on the buy list, again, where they were at last year, where they might be headed this year, Michigan. Michigan went 8-5 a year ago, several close games coming off that national championship run the year before. Think about the way that they ended their season, though. You could make an argument outside of Ohio State winning the national championship. In this day and age where most teams are going to lose their last game, it's not like it used to be in college football when most teams could win a bowl game and be like, yeah, here we go. Now If you're not in the playoff, it's hard to even win a bowl game and feel great about yourself because you're not in the top 12 in the country. However, of the teams not in the playoff, which, by the way, all 11 except for Ohio State had to end the year on a loss, Michigan had the best, easily, last month of the season of anybody in the country. They were unbelievable on defense. They get wins against Ohio State and against Alabama, despite scoring only 32 total points in those games. Their defense was number one in the country in scoring defense and total defense over their last four. And by the way, in those last four, not a cupcake schedule. They played 3 teams that were in the top 15, Indiana, Ohio State, and Alabama. They gave up 2 total touchdowns over the last 3.5 games. So something happened with Wink Martindale. If they get any offensive contribution from Bryce Underwood or whoever plays quarterback, this team should be drastically better. This was an 8-win team with an offense that couldn't throw the ball at all. In fact, the only teams in the country that they were better than throwing the ball were academies. That's a problem. Okay, so Mikey Keene comes in. I know he is dealing with that injury. He could be a possible replacement at quarterback. Bryce Underwood, he could be possible replacement at quarterback. And since Keene had the injury, he didn't get a ton of reps in the spring, so Underwood got those reps. I think that they're going to want to run the football again. They've got Jordan Marshall, a guy that they really like when talking to him. They also brought in Justice Haynes from Alabama. They've recruited well. I've got a bit of a question about the offensive line. Is it as good as those offensive lines late in Harbaugh's era that they could just lean on and just play bully ball? Not sure. Defense should be excellent. I think Clemson and Michigan could have the 2 best defenses in the country. Wink Martindale figured it out along the road during the year last year. He turned in one of the better defenses in the country. You've got Jair Hill. He's back. He's the one that stepped in for Will Johnson when Johnson was banged up. Rod Moore, who tore his ACL before the year last year, he should be back, although there's been complications with his rehab. And then you've got the schedule in the Big Ten. They've got the benefit of actually a decent schedule. They don't have to play Penn State. They don't have to play Oregon. They don't have to play Illinois. They don't have to play Indiana, and they don't have to play Iowa. So what do they have? Well, a huge game, week 2 against Oklahoma. That's on the road. And I know that's a big if because Norman's not an easy place to play. If they were to beat Oklahoma, nothing looks daunting on the schedule. They would have games at Nebraska, at USC, Washington before the huge game against Ohio State at the end of the year. I think this is a bounce back year for Michigan. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they go and win that game in Norman. I really don't, in particular with how good their defense is. John Mateer is going to have a tough night that night against that Michigan defense. There's no doubt in my mind. So watch out for Michigan. I think that's a bounce back. I believe that's a buy for next year. Michigan is a buy. Okay, next on the sell list. This one's a sell. Not that they were great last year, but I think it could be trending in the wrong direction. Wisconsin. The Badgers went 5-7 last year. They lost their last 5 games, so they snapped a streak of 22 straight winning seasons. Now, I don't want to do that. I was just going to say, they tried to change their identity, and Luke Fickell went in a different direction, both defensively and offensively, than what they had been through the entirety of their recent and successful history. And I remember saying, I was like, hey man, that's dangerous. That can be like Bill Callahan at Nebraska style stuff where you win a very specific way. You decide that it's not good enough. And rather than making little tweaks to improve, you kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater stylistically. Now, I want to be really clear. I think Luke Fickell is an excellent football coach. I really do. And I'm hoping that this works out for him. And I actually think that Wisconsin could be a better team roster-wise this year than they were even last year. But here's the problem. I don't know if that shows up in the win-loss column this year. This is one of the most difficult schedules in the country. So you can tell me like, oh, they brought in Billy Edwards, a transfer quarterback. Fine. Jeff Grimes at offensive coordinator. Maybe they're going to be more physical and go back to what Wisconsin has been in the past on the offensive side. Okay, that's fine. But you still have to be better than the teams that you play. They could be underdogs in 9 of their 12 games this year. Think about that. I'm just putting up the 6 that are like really tough on YouTube for you to look at. Here's what's listed. At Alabama, good luck. At Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Illinois. Not to mention, they still have to play home games against Iowa, home against Washington. They're at Minnesota. By the way, Oregon and Indiana were on the road. So you look at that schedule, and it's like, I don't know if they win 3 games. So for this year, as much as I really like Luke Fickell and think he's an excellent coach, and I could even make a strong argument that Wisconsin could be a better team this year, it's not going to show up in the win-loss column. That's a sell all day long. The schedule is brutal. You can't make those changes and think that you're going to develop your way out of it with that schedule in front of you. It's not about the size of the hole. It's whether you can climb out of it. So this is going to be a tough climb this year. This year is a sell for Wisconsin. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.